Welcome to this post-apocalyptic adventure. In a world overrun by zombies, our protagonist is on a journey of survival and discovery. Join us as we follow their story filled with challenges, mysteries, and unexpected encounters. Are you ready to witness this thrilling tale unfold? Let's dive in! I rolled my eyes. What was I thinking? Giving up on food, of course. We want it. It took a lot of persuasion to convince them, so there's no way we'd say no. I took 5.5 pounds of meat and 6 pounds of potatoes from the fridge and handed them to Karenlin. But the other person just widened their eyes. That's it, I nodded with certainty. Karenlin glanced around unwillingly and noticed that there was still quite a bit of potato and meat stew left in the rice cooker. So Cynthia walked over, picked up the rice cooker, and said, "What's left is mine too." Time flew by, and 4 days later, I had scoured the entire building. And these days, Cynthia's appetite has been growing. Initially, she was satisfied with just half a pound of meat, but now, even after 2.5 pounds, her stomach shows no sign of fullness. If it weren't for his affection level continuously increasing, I really wouldn't want to keep feeding him. Without worrying if it could understand me, I continued to threaten it. "I've been feeding you for 6 days now. If you dare to bite me again, I'll leave you here to fend for yourself." After I finished speaking, I removed the claw from Cynthia's mouth. Instead of shouting like he did at first, he opened his mouth, waiting to be fed. "If you bite me, I'm not giving you anything to eat." "Got it. Since you don't speak, then I'll take it as if you understand." Tentatively reached out a hand towards Cynthia, and then he rudely opened his mouth, ready to bite me. I can't just yell loudly and get it over with. He froze for a moment at my shout, then tilted his head and looked at me. I tentatively reached out again, but Cynthia still bites down without hesitation. After going back and forth like this over a dozen times, just when I was about to give up, Cynthia finally stopped biting and looked at my face, as if trying to gauge from my expression whether it was meant for her to eat. My heart swelled with excitement as I gently shook my head at him. Cynthia seemed to understand what I meant and surprisingly didn't bite me. Excitedly, I took out another piece of meat and handed it over, nodding at Cynthia. This time, Zhao started eating directly, and after that, he repeated it a few more times, always waiting for my nod before he began. To determine if Cynthia can only restrain her aggressive impulses while restrained, I've decided to conduct another experiment. I first untied the nylon rope around him, put another plate of meat on the coffee table. Cynthia wobbly stood up and walked towards me. First, he glanced at the meat on the table, then looked at me. Then she raised her hand to point at the meat on the plate. I was thrilled and nodded at Zhao. Cynthia finally picked up her plate and started eating. It must be said, her table manners were still quite messy. What's worth mentioning is that, although Cynthia only has a favorability rating of 40, she's already not attacking me. If her favorability reaches 100, wouldn't I have a compliant zombie subordinate? This isn't a romance system, it's clearly a master-servant system. Meanwhile, on the other side, Zhao has been on edge these past few days. He already knows that I'm about to leave. Whether it's for the food in my hand or out of revenge, he has no intention of letting me leave alive. But with just him alone, there's no chance. After all, I'm someone who can easily take down zombies. So Zhao began urging Karenlin, "Honey, I think we can't let the guy next door leave. At least not with the food. Why don't you try borrowing food again, and when he's asleep, open the door and let me in. Then we can take the opportunity to take him out." Hearing this, Karenlin was taken aback. She didn't understand why her husband would think she could make that person fall asleep. Zhao, who had been waiting for a response, was starting to get anxious. "Can you just give me an answer, yes or no? You can't possibly be too soft-hearted to break the news to him, right?" Karenlin hurriedly replied, "No, I was just thinking about how to help him fall asleep." Zhao anxiously pressed on, "So, have you thought of a solution?" He was almost tempted to blurt out, "Why don't you just sleep with him?" Out of guilt, Karenlin found it hard to refuse Zhao's requests, so she eventually nodded in agreement. Zhao immediately perked up upon hearing the news. "Great. As soon as night falls, we'll start the operation. I'll go make some preparations first." Karenlin watched Zhao's departing figure, a bitter smile forming on her lips. He didn't even ask about the specifics of the plan, which meant he knew. On the other hand, since I plan to leave early tomorrow morning, I'm getting ready to rest early. Just as Cynthia lay down, she heard a knock at the door. I opened the door with a smile on my face. Hungry again so soon? Hearing this, Karenlin felt a surge of anger inside, with an impulse to throw a punch. But he held back, even showing a charming expression. It wasn't just hunger. "Come on in, I'll step aside." As Karenlin walked past me, I raised my hand and gave a slap. The jelly-like texture makes me genuinely praise it. The feel is really nice. Karenlin covered her backside and glared at me angrily. "You owe me an extra cookie." Karenlin's face was full of suppressed anger, yet she couldn't say a word. I couldn't help but burst into laughter. So this is what it feels like to let loose without holding back. It's absolutely exhilarating. I have no sympathy for them in my past life. How they treated me as a couple, this is their deserved retribution. Karenlin lowered her head, her eyes burning with fiery anger. "Go ahead and laugh. Let's see if you can still laugh after tonight." A few hours later, Karen Lin emerged, unsteadily supporting herself against the wall. In order to help me fall asleep, she went through quite an ordeal. She fainted several times, but quickly woke up again in shock. It was only a few steps from the bedroom door, yet Karen Lin took several minutes. As soon as he opened the door, David Zhao slipped into the room. "So, is he asleep?" he asked. "Falling asleep is the best," David Zhao said, gripping the fruit knife tightly, but after taking just a few steps, he saw someone standing in the bedroom. This left David Zhao utterly shocked. "You asterisk asterisk. Didn't you say he was asleep?" Karen Lin was startled too, but quickly realized something was off. This was the zombie that bastard raised. How did it break free from the ropes? "Honey, what should we do? Let's just leave for now." David Zhao was in the midst of a fierce internal struggle. He was afraid of the zombies, yet he knew all too well that if he missed tonight, such a golden opportunity might never come again. Moreover, Cynthia appeared harmless, which gave David Zhao the illusion that he could handle things just as well. Just to be safe, he said to Karen Lin, "Honey, you distract him while I take care of him." Hearing this, Karen Lin was so shocked that she trembled slightly. "Don't worry, I won't let him hurt you," David Zhao said with confidence. However, deep down, he was already prepared to sacrifice his wife if necessary. However, Karen Lin was extremely unwilling. She wasn't ready to risk her life for David Zhao. At this moment, my impatient voice came from the bedroom doorway. I said, "How much longer are you all going to discuss?" Hearing the sound, the hearts of David Zhao and his companion started pounding intensely. They actually hadn't fallen asleep. "Even if I were asleep, your noise would definitely wake me up." As Karen Lin watched the calm and composed smile on my face, her expression turned to fear. "My husband is holding off the zombies," she said. "Let's run quickly. Are you talking about him?" Under their incredulous gazes, I raised my hand and ruffled Cynthia's hair. And Cynthia didn't attack me. Instead, she stood quietly and let me pet her. The two were so scared they wet their diapers. How could this be? Not only do you not look like a zombie, but even your behavior is completely different from any other zombie. David Zhao suddenly gave Karen Lin a forceful push forward. He then turned around and ran towards the door, but didn't run far before I caught up and knocked him down with a single hit. "Wait, I have something to say, please. I beg you not to kill me." But I didn't waste any words on him. I picked up the fruit knife that had fallen to the ground and stabbed it directly into his heart. Karen Lin watched the scene unfold. Her courage nearly shattered. "This was all David Zhao's idea. He's the one trying to harm you. It has nothing to do with me, please. I'm begging you to forgive me. I swear, from now on, I will serve you as if you were my master." Karen Lin still held onto a sliver of hope in her heart, thinking I couldn't possibly bring myself to kill him. But unexpectedly, I coldly said, "You're not really sorry. You just know you're about to die," and with that, I stabbed. At this moment, Cynthia walked over and pointed at the two bodies on the ground. I shook my head. "No, this is already spoiled. Eating it will cause an upset stomach." As soon as the sun rose the next day, I took Cynthia and rode my motorcycle out of the apartment building. It's worth mentioning that along the way, the rumbling of the engine attracted quite a few zombies. However, their sluggish movements meant they couldn't catch up and could only watch helplessly as I drove off into the distance. Arriving at Coastal University to escape the horde of zombies behind me, I was getting ready to enter any building. Suddenly, someone shouted over here. After a brief moment of hesitation, I left the motorcycle behind and ran in that direction. The person who was calling out earlier quickly stepped aside from the window as I approached. I braced one hand on the window frame and vaulted into the classroom. Cynthia stood there, frozen, unable to climb through the window. She could only stand by the window, staring blankly. A few enthusiastic male students were ready to step forward and lend a hand. I pushed him away and said, "No need for me to come." After speaking, I leaned forward, slipped my hands under Cynthia's arms, and without much effort, lifted him inside. The seemingly wealthy young man spoke up. "You must be sent by my dad to save us, right?" The boy's name is Yangsheng. Relying on his status as the mayor's son, David Zhao deceived the others, claiming that his father would send someone to rescue them. This allowed him to position himself as the leader of the group of survivors. I ignored his outstretched hand. "Who the heck are you? Do I know you?" Yangsheng's expression instantly turned a bit unpleasant. He only said that to increase his importance in the eyes of others. But he didn't expect me to show him such disrespect. To regain his dignity, he began speaking with the tone of a leader. "In other words, you're one of us now, a survivor. Since that's the case, you should follow our rules." Seeing the situation, one of his followers immediately stepped forward. Trying to grab my backpack, I slapped his hand away and took a step back. "What are you doing?" Yang wore an expression of righteous indignation. "For all of us to survive, please hand over your supplies. We will distribute them as a whole." Seeing this, I snorted coldly. "Whether you all can survive or not has nothing to do with me." Upon hearing this, Yangsheng deliberately raised his voice so everyone could hear. "If everyone were as selfish as you, all of us would have starved by now. The reason we're doing this is to make the most efficient and rational use of our resources." I couldn't listen any longer, so I interrupted him directly. Your survival is none of my concern, and I have no intention of teaming up with you. Therefore, I won't be handing over any supplies. Du Yangsheng gave a cold smile and pointed out the window. Well then, I'm afraid you'll have to leave immediately. And outside the window, the zombies I had lured earlier were eagerly pressing against the window. Drooling, I certainly won't agree to leave now, especially since I haven't accomplished the purpose of my visit. Besides, there are so many classrooms here. I'll stay for a few days and leave naturally afterward. As an outsider, the students preferred listening to Du Yangsheng. Consequently, they surrounded me, filled with indignation. Who do you think you are to talk to Mr. Du like that? If we hadn't saved you just now, you would have been dead already. This is a school, you're not a student here. So why do you think you can stay in our classroom? I couldn't help but chuckle, trying to reason with me during the apocalypse. Really, even if I insist on staying, what can they do about it? These sheltered individuals who've never experienced real danger, dare they challenge someone like me, who's lived another life and survived countless battles, just as tensions reached their peak. A woman dressed in a long gown, looking refreshingly stunning, walked in. What's happening here? Du Yangsheng stepped forward and stood next to him. This person, Yulan, wants to stay here with us, but we were just about to send him away. With a slight frown, Su Yulan said, if he wants to stay, let him stay. We have so many empty classrooms here. Why drive him away? You're just sending him to his doom. Everyone just disperse. The students hesitated, looking at Du Yangsheng. It wasn't until he nodded that they finally scattered. At this moment, Su Yulan's gaze went past me and looked at Cynthia behind me. Is this your sister? She's really beautiful. Hello there, little girl. What's your name? And why are your eyes so red? Her enthusiasm received no response from Cynthia. I quickly stepped forward to explain. She's just wearing colored contact lenses. My sister is a bit shy and doesn't talk much, so please don't mind her. The other person easily believed what I said, since, after all, there aren't any zombies that don't attack people on their own right now. For now, you can stay here. The first to third floors are safe, so feel free to choose any empty classroom. But remember, from the fourth floor up, it's very dangerous. Soon it was noon in front of a classroom labeled storage. A dozen or so students were lined up, all waiting to receive their food for the day. However, most of them only received a few crackers. Meanwhile, Yangsheng was sneaking a bite of the chicken leg he had tricked someone into giving him in the warehouse. But just at that moment, everyone caught the scent of a rich, mouth-watering aroma. A dozen people abandoned their lines and hurried downstairs, drawn by the delicious smell. At this moment, I'm on the second floor in a classroom, starting a fire to cook. Everyone watched with eyes turning red. Seeing the situation, Du Yangsheng walked into the classroom and said, "Friend, can I trade my snacks for your food?" I flatly refused. With your moldy food, not only is it insufficient to fill the stomach, but it also tastes terrible. Yangsheng was still hoping to plead again, but I completely ignored him and walked out of the classroom with a bowl of meat. Want some? Everyone nodded eagerly. I cleared my throat and asked, is anyone here an architecture major? As soon as the words were spoken, everyone fell silent. After a long silence, someone finally spoke up, saying that the building for architecture classes was in another block, and it was likely already overrun with zombies. Hearing this, I was greatly disappointed. The main purpose of this trip was to find someone to design the safe house plans. But it seems like that's not going to happen now. Just then, a faint voice emerged from the crowd. I'm an architecture major. Everyone turned towards the voice and saw that the speaker was a girl with braided hair and black-framed glasses. Looking somewhat dowdy, with so many eyes on her, the girl couldn't help feeling a bit nervous. I looked at the girl with suspicion, with her timid demeanor. It's hard not to suspect she's here for a free meal. Sensing a hint of disdain in my eyes, the girl with the braided hair gathered her courage. My name is Chele, and I'm the top of our class in this major. If you don't believe me, you can ask around with other classmates. I trust you, but can you draw schematics? The other person suddenly looked up, staring at me in surprise. I didn't trust him without reason. It was because of the system panel that appeared before my eyes. Her name is Kyle, a student majoring in architecture. Unfortunately, her feelings don't seem to resonate with others. Choose between a solar power generation system or a wastewater purification device as a hand-in-hand reward. First kiss reward monitoring system set up. Complete the mission to unlock the reward. Automatic turret 4, along with 100 rounds of turret-specific ammunition. Wow, these rewards are incredibly useful. If you can get them all, they would significantly enhance the safe house. When he heard my question, Kyle nodded without hesitation. I will. Can you create unique architectural designs? Cynthia's mind was filled with big questions. But in order to get some food, she agreed anyway. I hire you, and your pay will be 1 bowl of meat and 1 bowl of vegetables every day. Kyle thought it would be great to get a bit of meat, but to his surprise, there were vegetables as well. He eagerly accepted the job right away. Where there are people who are happy, there are also those who are not. After giving me a fierce glare, Du Yangsheng left with his followers at the stairway. A henchman named Zhang Wei first glanced around to ensure no one was following them and said, Mr. Du, this guy is too arrogant. Why don't we take him out? Du Yangsheng pondered for a while, but realized it was not possible. You saw his skills against the zombies during the day. We're no match for him at this moment. Yangsheng probably wants to deal with me more than anyone else, but unfortunately, he just doesn't have the strength. Little Zhongwei still wanted to say something, but Yangsheng had already left. Zhongwei watched his back and gave a cold snort. HMPH. You're indulging yourself while turning your nose up at his food, and here I am still hungry. I need to come up with a plan to get my hands on his supplies. On the other side, Kella finished his meal and licked his lips. Still craving for more, seeing the situation, I asked if he wanted some more. Chella shook his head, saying, "No, I've already finished. If I dip into tomorrow's pay today, I'll end up going hungry tomorrow." That made me chuckle a bit. Let's get to work then. After Chella agreed, he immediately got into work mode. He opened his backpack and took out a laptop, saying, "Tell me your requirements. I want a blueprint of a safe house. It should cover an area of 100 square meters. The strength of the safe house must be high enough, and it should also have a warehouse, an escape passage, a rest area, and a bathroom. A 100 square meter space is still too small for a safe house, especially since you'll need room for planting and breeding areas." I glanced at Chala, a bit surprised. This girl seems even more thoughtful than I expected. Not bad. Looks like you'll still need to leave room for expansion. Great, I'll get started right away. Upon hearing that, I excitedly asked him how soon he could deliver the design. It will take about 10 days, and if any modifications are needed afterward, it might take an additional 2 or 3 days. I couldn't help but frown. According to my memories from my past life, a cold wave will hit in just over a week. If I can't move into the safe house before then, I'll have to freeze in these drafty school buildings. Do you have the confidence to complete the drawing within 7 days? At first, Kyle was a bit hesitant, but soon, she showed a determined look. No problem, 7 days, just 7 days. Let me know if you need any adjustments. I brought Cynthia to the rooftop, hoping to find a suitable location to build a safe house. I quickly discovered an open area behind the school. It's hidden by the school's buildings in the front and backed by a large mountain. If you don't actually enter the school, it's hard to notice this spot, and there are fewer zombies here too. I picked up the baseball bat, ready to go clear out the zombies. Climbing out the first floor window, I glanced around. There are 4 zombies lurking nearby, even if I carefully strike down a zombie, but still managed to lure the other 3 zombies over. Fortunately, leading the pack was someone in a t-shirt, who seemed to have been an athlete in life. Unlike the other slow-moving zombies, this athletic zombie moved much faster, quickly closing the distance and arriving right in front of me. I calmly dodged to the side and then swung my stick again. No wonder he's an athlete, even after taking a hit. The zombie can still move. I immediately followed up with another strike at this moment. The 3rd zombie was also within arm's reach. I swept his legs, knocking him to the ground, then followed up with 2 swift strikes. At this moment, the last zombie lunged at me. I couldn't get up in time and was knocked to the ground. The zombie's gaping maw clamped down on my baseball bat, and the 2 of us began a fierce struggle. I muttered a silent curse, trying to throw off the zombie on me, but failed several times, just as I gathered all my strength to try once more. A slender hand suddenly grabbed the zombie by the neck and tossed it away. I turned my head in surprise and discovered that the owner of the little hand was actually Cynthia. At this moment, the zombie that had been thrown out charged back again. Before I could get up, Cynthia swiftly grabbed the zombie's neck and gave it a forceful twist. With a crack, the zombie's head tilted and it collapsed to the ground. Wow, I never expected Cynthia, who looks so delicate, to be so strong. It seems I was right. She really has evolved. When I first watched Cynthia's complexion change from pale to rosy little by little, I had my suspicions. Now, they are finally confirmed. I opened the system panel and saw that Cynthia's favorability had already increased to 50. This is really so much better than dealing with women. No need for designer bags or cosmetics. Just give her food and she can even protect herself. Cynthia, whom I was staring at, showed no expression on her face, as if she wasn't the one who just acted. After taking a break, I resumed my decluttering work. Cynthia only steps in to help when I'm in life-threatening situations. The rest of the time, she's quietly observing from the sidelines. It seems that to get him to work for her, she needs to continue improving his favorability. It was not until dusk that I started heading back to the classroom building. I arrived at the men's restroom, ready to take off my clothes and wash off the bloodstains. And then Cynthia followed them in. It's the first time taking a shower in front of a woman. It feels a bit awkward, but after all, she's just a zombie. Soon after taking a shower, I was about to change into clean clothes. He suddenly looked at Cynthia, although it's unclear if zombies sweat. The recent battle left him covered in quite a bit of blood, so I decided to clean him up as well. At this moment, Cynthia was staring directly at me, even though I knew there was no concept of gender in his mind. My face still flushed, I bit my lip and quickly undid Cynthia's clothes. Her radiant, glowing skin nearly blinded me, and just looking at her made my blood boil. I quickly reminded myself that he was a zombie. Once I calmed down a bit, I hurriedly started to clean him up. 1 minute later, after finishing my routine, I looked up and met Cynthia's gaze. There, you should feel a bit better now. but he was staring straight into my eyes unlike before. There seemed to be an emotional fluctuation in Cynthia's gaze. Not sure if it was just my imagination, so I leaned in closer to take a better look. But in the next second, Cynthia's body suddenly leaned in. I was completely unprepared for her to make a move, so I had no time to dodge. However, instead of the wild bite he imagined, a soft and slightly sweet sensation spread from his lips. I was filled with shock until the sound of the system brought me back to my senses. Congratulations to the host for receiving the first kiss reward, immunity. After the zombie plague and the vaccine incident, you will be immune to the zombie virus infection. Looking at the affinity level for Cynthia on the system panel, I was surprised once again. I didn't expect that just by taking a simple shower, her affinity would rise to 60, reaching the like stage directly. I closed the system panel and asked Cynthia, "Do you have any feelings now?" Cynthia tilted her head, looking a bit clueless, clearly unable to grasp such a complex term, so I switched to a simpler question. "Can you understand what I'm saying?" This time, David nodded. I tried asking a few more questions, but whenever they got slightly more complicated, Cynthia would become unresponsive. In this case, having Cynthia act alone may still not be feasible. However, as her rapport with others grows, she might eventually regain complete human emotions. By then, she'd definitely be able to understand more complex commands. For now, let's just get out of the bathroom first. Back in the classroom, after asking Chale, I found out that the mini fire station is located right next to the entrance of the administration building, but if we want to get across, we'll have to navigate around the zombies on the playground. I silently kept this information in mind, and then instructed Kyle to go back and rest. Soon, only Cynthia and I were left in the classroom. I took out the zombie virus vaccine and injected it directly into my arm, using the entire vial. This way, the threat of zombies to me is greatly reduced. At this moment, on the third floor of the teaching building, two figures are stealthily making their way towards the stairs. One of them looked worried. "Are you sure nothing will go wrong if we do this?" Another person scoffed and said, "What's the big deal? At most, he can take on to people. And one of them is just a little girl, Meng Hai. Don't tell me you're afraid of a girl." This person was none other than Zhang Wei. Soon, the two of them quietly reached the classroom where I was located, one after the other. The doors at both the front and back of the classroom have been locked from the inside. However, this couldn't stop Zhang Wei, who had plenty of experience in skipping class. He pried the window open with a quick jolt, then flipped himself inside. Meng Hai wasn't as agile as Zhang Wei. He first swung one leg over the window and sat on it. But just as he was about to swing his other leg over, he noticed that short figure in the classroom suddenly standing up straight. He was so scared that he stammered nervously, Zhang Wei instantly became alert. But it was too late. He only felt a sharp pain in his chest as a slender arm pierced through him. Meng Hai was scared out of his wits and turned to flee. But he had his chest pierced by a hand. Cynthia stared at the blood on her hands. Suddenly, a wave of hunger surged through her mind, compelling her to lick the blood. But she managed to restrain herself in the end. The next day, when I woke up, I saw Cynthia excitedly showing me the blood on her hand. My eyes narrowed. What's going on here? Cynthia glanced towards the window again, following his gaze. I saw one person lying on the ground and another leaning against the window. Both had a large hole in their chest, and next to the bodies on the ground was a pair of nunchucks. Seeing this, I instantly understood everything. But at this moment, Cynthia was shaking my hand back and forth. I immediately understood what David Zhao meant, so I took him to the bathroom to wash the blood off his hands. Back in the classroom, I had just thrown the two bodies out of the window. Chela approached with his laptop in hand. After giving me a nod, he went straight to the desk and began working. After a while, Yangsheng's annoying face appeared at the classroom door. Zhang Wei, what did you do to him? The look on my face remained calm as I wondered. Who is Zhang Wei? Don't play dumb with me. I'm talking about the one with the green hair. Then it suddenly dawned on me that one of the two people from last night was named Zhang Wei. I still pretended to know nothing and responded, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know anyone named Zhang Wei. Do you really think I'll believe you? He conveniently disappeared not earlier, not later, but right after you showed up. Who else could have done it if not you? Why are you barking here if someone is missing? Go find them instead of barking at me. The sound of the two arguing attracted quite a crowd of students. This also included Yulansu, and he asked in confusion what was going on and what had happened. Yangsheng's tone softened slightly? Zhang Wei and Meng Hai were nowhere to be seen. After pondering for a moment, Su Yulin wondered if she had gone out to search for supplies. It's impossible for them to leave without my orders. I chimed in with a chuckle. You're so sure they'll listen to you, for all you know? They might have already grown tired of you and ran off while you were asleep.
As we reach the end of this part of the journey, our protagonist and Cynthia have faced numerous challenges and surprises. Their path is still filled with uncertainty, but their determination remains unshaken. What lies ahead for them? Will they succeed in building the safe house and finding a way to survive in this harsh new world? Stay tuned for more adventures and revelations in the next installment. Thank you for watching.